Well, first of all, I just love skiing. Like, so much. There's nothing in the world that brings me more joy, ever.
Yeah, I'm scared to death right now, but I've got this. Like, I know deep down inside, I'm capable of what I'm about to do.
I came back way stronger. I felt like the rehab was pretty simple and straightforward. And I learned how to appreciate my body and how to take care of it, what to eat, and like to stretch. I was 18, so I felt like I was invincible at the time.
This week's interview is with an incredibly strong and passionate woman. She spends the summers fishing for salmon in Alaska, working 20-hour days and pushing it to the limits, and all for the winter times so that she can go out and spend as much time as she possibly can skiing powder. First, let's take a look at our sponsors, because without them, none of this is possible. Our first sponsor is Northwest Tech. If you haven't heard of them yet, you're missing out. They hand make customizable 3-layer outerwear to order in the Pacific Northwest. And that means you know that it keeps you warm, dry, and looking unique while you're sending it around the mountain. They've been generous enough to give me a coupon code for my listeners. Use the code AOS75 to get $75 off any custom piece of outerwear. Their site is in the show notes. This episode is brought to you by POC. POC makes the best helmets, goggles, and protective wear out there. They've been dedicated to protecting athletes since day one, and I wouldn't wear a different helmet, goggle, back pad, or hip pads. With their spin technology and VPD system, there are no other products on the market that are like it. Definitely go and check out POCsports.com and protect yourself today. This week's interview is with an incredibly strong and passionate woman. She spends the summers fishing for salmon in Alaska, working 20-hour days and pushing it to the limits, and all for the winter times so that she can go out and spend as much time as she possibly can skiing powder and enjoying time with friends. She is an amazing role model for young women and just one of my favorite people to be around. Without further ado, McKenna Peterson.
All right, my name's McKenna Peterson. I grew up in Sun Valley, Idaho. I've been skiing for my entire life, for as long as I can remember. I grew up ski racing. Ski raced up until I discovered the Free Skiing World Tour and the big mountain competitions. Decided that they were way, way more fun than racing, and transitioned into big mountain skiing. And I've been doing that ever since. I retired from competition about 6 years ago and have been lucky enough to ski for film and photos since then. Just kind of chasing powder and living the ski bum dream.
Oh, yeah. Still working your butt off, though, every summer, I know. Doing fishing, commercial salmon fishing, right?
Yes, I commercial salmon fish in the summers, and it's the perfect job for skiing because I can go work my ass off for 4 months and then take the rest of the year off and just travel and ski and do my own thing.
Definitely, yeah. It's I think it's good preparation for ski season too. I've never done salmon fishing, but you're in the elements, you're in the cold, you may not sleep very much, you have to have teamwork, you have to make decisions that are, like smart decisions all the time. So, yeah, it's probably like the perfect venue to practice a lot of things that you need for skiing.
Yeah, it is the perfect training ground. I kind of call it suffer training. It's fishing is not easy. It's a lot of hard work. It's different every day. You work every day, every minute of every day. At the end of this past summer, right when I got off the boat, I bought myself a flight to Mexico and went and sat on the beach and slept for 10 days. I didn't even go surfing. I just slept because the summer was so hard, and this last summer was actually 5 months straight of just work, and there wasn't a day where I didn't do anything.
Yep.
So right when we were finished, I let myself go do nothing for a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. When you're on for that long, you have to go and turn off and let your body recover. Like, your adrenals are probably firing all the time, high stress situations, and you've done a ton of interviews. I've done some research, so I know you said that you work like 20 hours a day most of the time, and sometimes it's multiple shifts without sleeping and stuff like that. So
Exactly.
yeah. You probably, maybe you do, but you probably don't get to have like a morning routine or an evening routine when you're on the fishing boat. But when you come back and when you're in ski season, do you have like a morning routine or an evening routine that you generally try and adhere to? Or traveling is hard, and like sometimes you're up at 4 a.m, sometimes you're up at 8 a.m, kind of depending on weather and all that. So
Yeah, actually I do. Once ski season kind of kicks into gear, which will be here shortly, hopefully, I like to wake up early every morning. So I never truly allow myself to sleep in. And then those mornings where I do wake up at 3, 4 a.m., it's a little easier to get going because, my internal clock is used to waking up around 6. So I like to wake up before the sun comes up, and I like to chill for a minute in the morning before I do anything. I like to stretch. I like to have my coffee not rushed. So I always make sure that I have a little time in the morning before I have to, kick it into gear and go do something.
yeah, totally. Why is that? Just give yourself some mental space to, prepare for the day, and, the things that you're out doing, you're mitigating tons of factors, and, you're putting yourself in risky situations, so it probably gives you like more mindfulness or more awareness. But is there one specific reason? Sorry.
No, that is exactly it. You said it. Being out in the field every day is, it's fun and it's wonderful, and it's, it's what I live for, but that doesn't mean it's not stressful. Even the joyous parts are still a little stressful. So I like to start my day with no stress and just very mellow, not feeling rushed, almost meditative. But I for a while I did take, 20 minutes every morning to meditate, but I don't do that anymore. Now it's more just pulling into my own mind and letting things be calm and chill and just kind of flow through the morning at a slower pace in order to prepare for the rest of the day, which is, kind of fast-paced, making decisions, always moving, being physical. And then at night, I like to just pass out. I don't have much of a wind down after a big day out skiing. My adrenaline's still pumping. I'm usually psyched or stoked and have a couple beers, hang out with some friends, and then it's like sleep.
Yeah.
So the morning's it's like the time of day where I can just relax.
Totally.
Yeah.
Like you're obviously used to running on little sleep, but do you try and get like a certain amount of sleep a night during ski season, or just kind of go with the flow depending on what you can get?
I go with the flow most of the time during ski season, but I like my sleep. So I'll try and get, 6 to 8 hours every night. If I can get 8 hours, I'm psyched. And since I wake up early, that means I'm usually like, into bed pretty early, which works well skiing because you go skiing during the day and then you après. So your social time isn't necessarily late night. It's like, I don't know, like 5 to 7 social hours. And then that allows me to eat a good dinner and go to bed at a reasonable time.
Yeah, totally. If you're not doing the après of the après.
Right, which sometimes that does happen. Sometimes you just après to rolling right back in and going skiing.
Yep. Totally.
That's okay too.
Yeah, as long as your body can handle it and you know like what your mental and emotional like space is at the time.
Exactly. It's usually one night of that followed by a week of very mellow nights.
Yeah, totally. I found myself doing a lot more of that in the competition scene, and like especially after, after a comp was over, there's this high stress, and then everyone's like, "Holy crap! Okay, I'm gonna let it go," and people let it go for sure.
Oh yeah, big time letting it go. Those comps were hard on us. That took a lot mentally.
Yeah.
And the afterward was like the most fun you could ever have. That feeling of it being over and accomplishing, and even if you crashed, you still had that stoke and that like I did it and everybody's fired up and the collective energy is high. Those were good times.
Yeah, definitely. One of the biggest things that I got out of it was community and like being around like-minded individuals. I think growing up ski racing, you have this community of people who generally, for the most part, love skiing. You know, there are some people that are just there because their parents want them to be there or whatever.
Right.
But, for the most part, they're there and then wanting to better themselves. And then, I took a break from the ski scene for a little bit and just felt so like this huge lack of community and started to feel really lonely even if I was like in a crowd because I wasn't around people that could really truly relate to me. And so that was one of the big things that I got out of it for sure.
I totally agree with you, and I honestly think that's the reason I've stayed in the ski industry, past competition and, kind of with getting older and moving my life forward. I've stayed in the industry largely because of the community and the people that I get to hang out with and people you meet. You just continue to meet amazing people everywhere you go. And skiing is what connects everyone. And that's my favorite part of it.
Yeah, definitely. It's like a little bit more of a bond than just like the friends from college that you'd go out to the bar with, or there's like I don't know, having that shared like joy from skiing is just huge.
Exactly.
If I remember correctly, your first competition was in Crested Butte, where I live right now.
Yes, my first competition was the Crested Butte Extremes, which was the best first competition to go to in the sense of the history of it and the people and how much fun it was. But, whoa, that was a steep venue, and I was so scared. I threw up in the start.
Wow.
Yeah.
What venue were you guys on?
Staircase, I think. Staircase and Body Bag.
Yep, totally.
That was, we did the qualifier day on the head wall.
Yep.
And that was awesome. And that was like more comfortable because it was more open.
Yep.
And then we moved over to the Staircase Body Bag venue, and it was like, whoa, there's trees all over the place, and it's really, really steep, and there's like, where am I? That was so fun.
Yeah, totally. There's Yeah, there's a lot of trees and like a lot of no fall zones, and like you got pillows over to the left. You got this big chute with this cliff on the left hand side of it, and then over in Body Bag, you've just got like crazy pillows over there, and it's
Yep.
all 45 degrees.
Yeah.
How did you do in that competition?
I did not do that well. I remember, I think the qualifier day, I was second or third and was like super psyched.
Yep.
It's like, whoa, I'm really good at this. This is rad. I think I did well because I skied fast and it was big and open.
Yep.
And then when we switched venues, I didn't do that well, but I stayed on my feet and I jumped off some cliffs and I just loved it. It didn't even matter how well I did, but I was hooked.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one of the amazing things about competitions is I think there's more of a stress from a lot of the people now on how they do, but, you know, back in the day, I feel like it was, like, a lot more just, like, about, I made it here, like, to the comp, and I'm stoked about that, and, I get a shred with all my friends, so.
Yeah.
I think it still kind of holds that, but it's definitely changed a lot with like the merger and then the splitting and then everything being qualifiers and like 4-star events now, and everyone's like gunning to make the Freeride World Tour, and I don't know.
Yeah, I think that we had it in the golden era there. We were lucky.
We were very lucky.
Mm-hmm.
Very, very lucky. What's your favorite part about skiing? Like, what, if you could name one, what's your favorite?
Well, like I was just saying, the people.
Yep.
The people is a huge part of it and a huge draw to continue skiing in the industry. But, you know, to step outside of the industry and just to ski on my own, I would say it's just the feeling of being out in nature, being in the mountains, finding that flow and that connection with your surroundings that I haven't been able to find anywhere else. It's when I'm in the mountains, you know, especially hiking and moving slowly through them or going really fast, ripping a line. That's when I feel like I'm the best version of myself and the most connected to who I am at my core.
Yeah.
So, you know, skiing just makes me feel alive. It makes me feel confident and strong, and, you know, just makes me enjoy every moment.
Definitely. I think it requires a certain level of mindfulness, and the more that you're out there and, you know, the more you get to be out there, it just, almost refines your mindfulness to a point where, like, yeah, you become one with your surroundings in a way that, for me, really nothing else does, so.
Yeah, same. You feel that ultimate connection, and I haven't found anything else that gives me that same feeling. And yeah, it's incredible. I'll ski for the rest of my life, or I'll find a way to, no matter what happens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. Do you have a certain type, like a certain diet that you stick to? Like, traveling is always super hard because if you go to certain countries, you kind of, you want to experience the culture and be a part of it and not be disrespectful. But B, sometimes you just don't have an option to eat the way that you want to eat. So is there a certain way that you try and eat, like when you're home or even while you're traveling? Or?
Yeah, you really hit the nail on the head there with needing to be easy for travel purposes. I do eat very well when I'm at home. I eat mostly vegetables and meat, mostly veggies. I stay away from sugar. Sugar affects me the most in a negative way, you know, making me lethargic or making me feel like I'm going to crash. I also try and make an effort to always eat a variety of foods and a wide variety, so that when I do travel and I do end up having to go way off of what my body is used to, my body doesn't freak out. It's like, oh, yeah, okay, we've had this before. We're fine.
Yeah.
So, like last year I did a 3-week, I did 3 weeks of glacier camping in Alaska. And we did not have the best diet out there, as you can imagine. We had, 0 fresh produce for 3 weeks. Ate a lot of starch, a lot of sugar, and, I did okay. I did fine because I hadn't completely cut those things out before I went. And I think just keeping an open mind and being able to, or being okay with eating anything helps as well. So you don't have that mentality of, oh no, if I eat this, it's going to make me sick. You just need to be okay with it and know that your body can handle it.
Yeah, totally. I think, the mind can trick you into getting sick, or can trick you into doing so many things just because you believe in it. Everyone says mind over matter, but it's so true.
That is so true.
I recently went through this when I was out in Sun Valley coaching progression camps, which we talked about briefly before we started. It was the last day, and we stopped. I forget the name of the town. It was in between Twin Falls and
Shoshone.
Yeah, and we had soft serve ice cream there. And I just totally believed that it was going to make me sick. Got home and got a really bad sinus infection. But then I just got back from Wisconsin and couldn't eat healthy the whole time. It was 3 days of me eating the worst I've eaten in a year. I really started focusing on my diet a year ago. And I'm fine. Totally fine. But I just kind of, walked into it knowing, okay, I'm going to eat this way, and it's going to be okay. So, yeah.
Yeah, the mental aspect of it's huge. You can talk yourself. I mean, I've done it before. I can talk myself into being sick, and that sucks. It works the opposite too, where you can talk yourself into feeling good and overcoming, potentially getting sick. So mind's powerful.
It really is. While we're on the topic of the mind, do you have any mantras that you say at the top of a line, or mantras that you say to yourself when you do meditate, or I think the inner voice is so huge in anything you accomplish in life, and in believing in yourself, and in accomplishing your dreams. So is there a mantra that you've said to yourself throughout your life? Or
There is actually. I've had this one for a few years, maybe 5 to 8 years. I've been saying this one, and it's kind of silly, but it definitely helps. I say this at the top of every line, or if I get scared, or if I get nervous, or if, even in everyday life situation, if I'm uncomfortable or find myself agitated, I can kind of close my eyes and breathe and think love. And I think love for my body and love for myself. And I can feel my knees and my legs relax. And then I think strength. And I can feel my core tighten and finding my center. And then I think confidence. And with that, I can roll my shoulders back and kind of fill my chest with air. And then I think patience. And with patience, everything can soften a little bit physically, and I smile.
Yeah.
And then that's it. That can fully relax me and knock my mind out of any negative pattern.
That's awesome. It's totally physiological reset that, it's so amazing how when you are in control of your emotions like that, and your physiology and your your body in that way. Yeah, like for me, like I could be terrified at the top of a line, and I have like a similar sort of thing. I don't necessarily say anything, but it's like a nervous system reset that I do. And then if I'm like really, really feeling weird, I've got this pendant that I have that has like I don't know if you can see it,
Oh yeah, very cool.
but it's like a
Oh yeah.
meteorite, a dinosaur tooth, and a pyrite crystal. And
Yeah.
like the dinosaur tooth represents like leaving a legacy, the meteorite represents shooting for the stars, and the pyrite crystal represents like perfect imperfection, because it has like lots of flaws to it if you look at it from like up close, but from a distance it looks like it's this perfect square piece of gold. So yeah, like I'll whip that out and just like hold it and say, I'm more powerful than I appear. I hold the universe's power and strength within me, and it just helps a ton. It's awesome.
It does. That's awesome. It's cool how things like that and, positive affirmations like that can just change. It can fully change your course of thought or how you're feeling physically.
Totally. For me, it's really important to feel the affirmation while you're saying it, and like it can evoke a feeling, but it can also, you can just say words like and not invoke the feeling, and then the affirmation doesn't really hold nearly as much power. So I think, go ahead.
No, you're right. I was just gonna agree with you. You gotta feel it too. You can't just be, saying mindless words. You feel it inside.
Yeah.
And around you. You gotta like surround yourself with it.
Totally. Create like an aura around you.
Right. It's like a blanket.
Everyone's gonna listen to this and be like, those hippies.
Those guys are so weird.
What kind of drugs were they on when they were talking? That's
the
hilarious.
good ones.
Yes. Life. Yeah. Yeah. So you, like, speaking of surrounding yourself and like environment, I know you're like a huge environmentalist, and that you're like out there fighting so that generations that survive us can have, the ability to experience the amazing things that we do. Can you just like speak a little bit to that?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody should say that they're an environmentalist. We all appreciate nature and appreciate this world and this environment, even if we don't say we do. We take so much from it, and it's what keeps us alive. I don't see why anybody wouldn't work to try and preserve what we have right now and try and bring back what we've already lost. So, I don't feel like I do any more than, what I should do as a human. We should just care. Everybody should just care. And the little things do matter, little things like recycling and carpooling and all those super simple everyday steps that it should not be a big deal to make the decision to live your life that way. It should just be an easy, oh yeah, of course I'm going to live my life like that. And that's how I look at it. And then I did one big trip to Greenland where we really saw some massive glacier recession and spoke with some local communities that, were impacted on such a major level by something that seemed so simple, like not having ice that they were used to traveling over, but the ice wasn't there anymore.
Yeah.
that really hit me as something that we need to pay more attention to. And something about that trip brought the idea of environmentalism as something that I had thought was, just something to pay attention to and something to take care of. It changed it into something that was like, okay, I should go out of my way and I should make taking care of the world a bigger part of my life and go above and beyond what I feel everybody should be doing on an everyday basis.
Totally. Yeah. I was in Belize a year and a half ago, and I saw a bunch of the locals being the people who were taking the least amount of care of the environment, and I got on this, philosophical thought process thinking about how they really, if they haven't seen the rest of the world and this is, their home, and who am I to tell them how to live their lives in some ways, and then got on this whole deal of the term first world problems. I was thinking about, people standing in line at Starbucks and thinking that they have problems and stuff like that, and then, talking to locals in Belize and hearing that, it used to be, the ocean just used to be filled with lobster, and now it's, hard for them to find them, and, I came up with this term, first the world's problems, which, just by adding, one little thing to it, it completely changes your whole perspective. And I was half asleep one night, just mulling it over in my head, and I was like, holy crap, that's an amazing saying. So I've been using that as hashtags and trying to get that notion out there that first all the world's problems, and then once those are solved, all yours will be solved, so you won't even be able to complain. But if you have a complaint, then go for it. So.
Right, that is a great term. First, the world's problems. And then there's the part of that where within solving the world's problems, or at least contributing to helping the world solve its problems, we can learn a lot about ourselves and in turn work on our own shit.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, if you become too selfless and don't take care of yourself, then you just become a masochist, and it's not sustainable in a lot of ways. You can totally run yourself out of energy and resources, and almost out of the resource of kindness in some ways. I don't know, but
right, there needs to be a balance there, like everything, there needs to be balance.
Yep. And if you're not taking care of yourself, then you don't have, the cliche term is, if you don't fill your cup up first, then you don't have anything to give.
It's so true.
But yeah, was Lexi on that trip to Greenland? Lexi DuPont?
She was not. This one I'm referring to is from 2012, so a long time ago, almost 5.5 years ago.
Yeah.
Great trip, incredible trip, very eye-opening. I know that she just spent a bunch of time in Iceland doing something similar.
Yeah.
Which was cool to see. And Lexi will have a great edit coming out from that trip here shortly.
Totally. I think Love to Your Mother is out as of yesterday, I think.
Oh, I need to check it out.
I need to go check it out too. I saw something on Instagram. It's I will look at that later tonight, and then I was at the gym till 10 at night, and I was like, I'm going home and falling asleep.
Yeah, okay, I'm gonna watch that right when we get off the phone here.
Yeah, totally. I'm so excited to see it. She's got apparently video from National Geographic in there, and original music and original poetry.
Oh,
stoked.
sweet.
Super stoked.
Sweet. That's awesome.
But What were you gonna say?
On the environmental topic, right now I'm reading a lot about what's happening up in Bristol Bay and the proposed pebble mine. And I'm learning a lot about salmon through reading about that ordeal, which is kind of crazy because I've spent so much time fishing and I spend so much time, with salmon
Yeah.
that it's been cool to kind of open my eyes even more.
Yeah,
Reading about
totally.
what's going on up there.
I'm drawing a blank and I feel like an idiot. What's the Kenai Peninsula? So I've done a bunch of fly fishing up there, both trout and salmon. And yeah, it was really, really cool to go out and do fly fishing with the guides and to, hear about their perspective about what's happening and there's it's just cool to become more and more educated about the problems that exist in the world. And then I think something that I found myself doing a lot when I was younger is finding problems and then becoming paralyzed about them or from them and being like, oh crap, well, there's a problem, and I feel doomed because of it. And we're so empowered as individuals to make change, especially when we find our voice and when we find platforms to express ourselves and to talk about it and to be, I think one of the key things is to be open-minded to opposition in a lot of ways, and at least be able to see and hear their point, because as soon as you shut them down or shut them out, then there's no way to create a truce or create cohesive coexistence. But yeah, I think it's cool to hear that you still have room to grow and educate yourself about salmon, even though you've been doing it for probably more than a decade now.
Yeah, 11 years now.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, you are so right there with needing to, listen to the opposition without getting too overwhelmed or worked up or just emotionally shut down by it. I mean, that's incredibly important. I find myself doing that. I find myself getting to the point where I'm so upset that I stop learning and education and learning. Every side and every piece of information can only help.
Yep. And I think, you can validate another person's emotions and feelings without siding with them and without siding with their opinion. And I think that's so huge these days, especially with social media, where it's so easy to become polarized in so many different ways. And it's just easy to as humans, we want to form a team. We want to form an allegiance, and so we look for these similarities, and then we see something that's different. We're like, nope, you can't be in my camp. Get out. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that is bad these days, especially with social media. I mean, I couldn't imagine being a kid and growing up with that. We were lucky, just right on the edge of it.
Definitely. I have a story I'll come back to, but what's your feeling about the social media age and of skiing and the social media skiers? Because I've had a hard push on my Instagram and on creating a an avenue for me to express myself, or basically it's a way for me to validate myself to sponsors is what it is. But in the end, what's your opinion about all of it?
Oh man, it's hard to say an exact opinion. it's weird, and I don't have a good grasp on it, and I'm not very good at it. My social media following isn't very significant, compared to other athletes, especially female athletes.
Yeah.
But I do respect and appreciate how people use social media as a way of expressing themselves. You can, really, there's a platform in front of you to really show who you are and what you believe in and what makes you happy and what you want to do. And that part of it I find very cool.
Yeah.
It's just we can get so wrapped up in that we live our lives to fulfill who we think we should be. We try and become something that'll please others, or something that'll get a lot of likes, or someone that will attract sponsorship.
Yep.
And then I also think it's easy to kind of lose track of who you actually are, and then compared to who you appear to be on social media. And when you start to mend those two together, and I think that can lead to some serious issues.
Yeah.
Self-identity issues.
Yeah. Yeah, totally. I think as soon as you start placing like your validation externally, I've talked about this on a couple other of the interviews, as soon as you start putting your validation on getting the sponsor, or getting 1,000 likes, or getting 10,000 followers, or whatever it is, then you've kind of lost the game of life in some ways, because you've placed your happiness in something that's outside of you, and then you're always going to be chasing it. I think you can draw the parallel to like corporate America, and like the person who works so hard to achieve a certain amount of money, and then they aren't even satisfied with that amount of money, and they just set their goals and dreams to be bigger. And so, yeah.
Because it can't buy you happiness. Money can't buy you happiness. Likes on Instagram don't buy you happiness. Even attention from big name sponsors does not make you happy. It's
Totally.
all within you.
Yep.
So social media is weird in that sense, where you can so easily fall into that path where you try so hard to use that to validate yourself, when really if you find happiness on your own, and then put it out there on social media, that can be a totally positive thing. It can inspire people. So it's super hard to differentiate. I don't have it figured out.
Yeah, and I think it's something that no matter what, with or without social media, you still kind of have to deal with. Like, let's say that there wasn't social media, but you're still trying to push yourself to learn a trick, or to, land a cliff or something like that. And if you place all of your happiness in landing it instead of trying it, then, you've put it out there, and separated yourself from it.
Right, exactly. It's about the process.
Yep. And trying, I was reading a book the other day, and it said, two people that have, ran 10 miles, and one of them, like, they're basically at the same level. One of them sets a goal to run a half marathon. The other one sets a goal to run an ultra marathon. And the person completes the half marathon but doesn't train very much, and is hurting the other person, trains really hard, doesn't complete the half marathon or the ultra marathon, but makes it 37 and a half miles into it. It's like that person accomplished almost 3 times what the other person accomplished, even though they didn't hit their mark, they still put themselves out there and tried. And yeah.
Yeah, I bet they felt pretty good too, even though they didn't make it.
Yeah, totally. They're like, well, crap, I ran so much farther than I ever thought.
Yeah, I've never ran that far.
Right?
That's crazy.
Yeah, sounds like painful knees to me. But
Back to the social media thing for a second. Someone asked me recently in an interview what I would pass on to, a future generation getting into the industry.
Yep.
And I really liked this because I'm going to try and live this way. Is make sure that you are having so much fun skiing that you forget to take your phone out of your pocket.
Right. I love that.
Because that's how it should be.
Totally. I'm playing a very delicate balance with that. Speaking of balance, I started a webisode series called Ski-nanigans this last year.
That's a good name.
And my whole point behind it is like the progression of the sport and being a pro at this point is so far removed from what the main economic source through which we get money, which is tourism. Like, there's such a big difference that most of the tourists have even stopped looking to pros for advice and for product selection and stuff like that. There's like a big mountain ski and a rental fleet ski that's completely 100% different, and like the constructions are different, the materials are different, like everything is so different that it's like I want to bring it back to the roots of like why we do this, which is to have a ton of fun.
Right. That is the point. That's the ultimate point for everybody. Doesn't matter your ability level.
Totally.
Have fun. If you're just beginning, make it fun. If you're, Candied Thobex, have fun.
Yep.
Everybody have fun.
Exactly. Yep. Exactly. And, it's an awesome venue to learn more about yourself and to get, to find personal growth and to push your limits and to, figure out how you personally deal with fear and, how to overcome those things. And, no matter whether it's fear of getting on the lift or fear of jumping off, 100-foot cliff, it's an awesome venue to push yourself and get to know yourself better.
Exactly. Find your confidence, and that translates into other forms of life too.
Yeah, totally. I think you can see it. One thing that I was going to say about social media is I see a lot more women in the sport almost having bigger followings than the men in the sport, which for me, like, I love it. It's a little bit, it's a complete shift of how it was, like, 15 years ago. You would have like Wendy Fisher and she would be in there, or Ingrid Backstrom and she would be there, and then but now it seems like with She Jumps and all these projects that like Lindsay Dyer and you and Lexi, and it's just awesome to see the social media empowering the younger female generation in a lot of ways.
Yes, for sure. That is definitely a positive side of it. There's a lot of empowering going on. I think She Jumps is incredible. I think She Jumps is an amazing organization, and it has a wide reach and a huge impact on a lot of girls across the country.
Totally.
I have a lot of admiration and respect for what those women do.
Yeah, definitely. I would love to see more camaraderie form in the masculine side of the sport, because I feel like in general in society, males are like, we think it's all about competition, and competition can breed some really cool things. But in the end, without community, like we were talking about earlier, it's really like, if you don't have friends to celebrate your accomplishments with, then is it really that cool? Is it really that fun? And, like the BE Invitational, dog's going wild. The BE Invitational, like, I think that's pretty awesome, because it's one of those things where it's like, you're not going for a place, you're not going for, whatever. It's just like, go and express your style and everything. But I do see I would say less unity and less community in some aspects of the masculine side of the sport. So.
Yeah, it would be cool to see more of that. I mean, anything to get kids together, teenagers together, to have fun, create friendships. Like you said, celebrate with each other at the end of the day. That's the best part. You got to share it.
Totally. And like, whether you can pull a backflip, and you pulled a backflip, for the last 3 years of your life, but when you watch someone that like just learns a backflip, and like how much excitement they have with that, and how much stoke, you're like, it just gets you fired up. You just have, I don't know.
Exactly. Yeah.
And I know people that haven't landed a backflip, and then someone goes out and like, they've tried a backflip several times, and then someone comes up and like, they've never thrown a backflip either, and they learn it faster, and then there's like some sort of like jealousy that gets involved in that, that sort of thing in the male side of the sport is, I don't know. I think we need more leadership just in general in masculinity. I've seen the women in the world rally together so much in the last decade, 2 decades, and yeah, I would just love to see more masculine leadership, like male to male leadership in those ways, for sure.
Yeah, and mentorship too.
Yep.
Yeah,
totally. That's so funny. A question that I have written down over here is, what's one piece of encouragement that you would pass on to the younger generation? So you already crushed that question for me.
Good.
Awesome.
Seriously though, I'm trying to put a lot of emphasis on that in my own life. Is what I'm doing in the mountains is about me.
Yep.
It's about having fun, and it's about the people I'm with and my partners, and it's about being outside. And if I think too much about social media and start going to do things because I need to post about them, or because I need to show my sponsors that I'm out skiing. Yeah, I mean, if you're out in the mountains doing what you love, you're doing it for yourself. You're not doing it to show other people. You're not doing it to post on the internet, and you're not doing it to please your sponsors. If you're a skier, your sponsors know that you're out there skiing. They should know that. And I'm trying hard to put less of an emphasis on social media, and we'll see how that goes, with my career. And I'm kind of okay with whatever direction that takes, but I know that I'm out there because I want to be out there, and because it's fun for me, and it's what makes me happy. I don't want to find myself doing anything solely to say that I did it and show that I did it to others. I don't think that's a healthy way to go about traveling in the mountains.
No, definitely not. I think you can make some very poor decisions and reduce your longevity in the sport by going out and pushing yourself when that little voice inside your head says, maybe this isn't the best idea, and you're like, no, I need the shot.
That happens all the time. I mean, I bet that's more prevalent than we think it is.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I think, for me, I think there's a big distinction, like, when you go out and work with a photographer, there's, like, you almost get to create art together, and when you do get that shot, there's, like, almost, like, there's a really cool sense of accomplishment, and it's not, when it's not for anyone else, it's because you two came together and created something that was amazing. Like, and it really is just about the bond between you guys and, like, you two sharing that moment and kind of being in the right place at the right time. I think that can be really, really cool. And it can really, it's, again, playing that balance of social media. Like, if it's going to go on social media, you might get stoked about showing other people, but at that point, it's like, hey, check out the art that we've created together. It's not like, hey, look at me, I'm awesome. It's like, hey, this guy had a really sweet vision and saw what I was trying to do off of this feature or, like, with this, and it just worked out.
Right. You're so right. And I love being a part of that process. That's cool to, work with the photographer, especially coming up with ideas. Like, hey, I saw this zone, I saw this air, or I saw this line that at this time of day has the most spectacular light and this background, and then to go there and put your minds together and figure out how to make a beautiful image out of it.
Yeah.
That's really fun. I truly enjoy doing that.
Yeah.
And but you don't do that every day. Hopefully that's not your everyday, because, it's also a little taxing. I guess it is some people's everyday, but that's not mine.
Yeah, totally. And I have definitely been the person that goes out and, like, this last season, we got hammered in Crested Butte, just like you guys got hammered in Sun Valley. And, I became victim a couple days of, like, sitting around waiting to get shots instead of going out and shredding the POW. And kind of reflecting back on it now, I'm like, man, what was I doing some of those days? But we did get some amazing art that came out of it, and some shots that, I'll remember for the rest of my life. So it's one of those things where you ultimately get to choose whether you liked it or not, or, like, whether you second guess your decisions, and, you don't get time back, so you gotta appreciate how you spent it a lot of the time,
Right. And, again, it's about that balance. I'm sure you had plenty of POW days where you just went out and soul shredded.
Yeah.
So
Definitely.
it's about that balance.
Yep. Definitely.
Yeah.
What's one piece of encouragement that you've gotten throughout your ski career that stuck with you?
That is a very good question. One piece of encouragement. I think that is just going to go back to having fun, kind of the theme that we've been talking about this whole time. Back when I first started competing, I think it was Chris Tatsuno, who grew up here in Sun Valley, so I knew him from my childhood.
Yep.
He's just an overall spectacular, positive, amazing dude and an incredible skier. He told me right from the start to make sure that it was fun, and it was always fun. And if it ever became not fun, don't do it.
Yep.
And kind of ran with that. And if it does become not fun, I don't want to do it. I don't do it.
Yeah. Totally. What's one technique that you've used to overcome fear? I guess we kind of already talked about this with, like, the mantra and everything, but are there other techniques that you use to overcome fear, or to, sometimes it's just listening to it and not doing?
Yes, of course. So there's there are times when you listen to that and you have that instinct and you have that gut feeling and you don't feel comfortable. But I'm often scared. I get scared, in the mountains, and I get scared before skiing certain lines. And I take the time to go through every precaution. And I think about it. I dig a pit, I check out the snow. So I make sure I have a really good grasp on the snow and what the snowpack looks like. And if I'm skiing a very exposed line, I will go over the line in my mind a million times. And I will go over things that could potentially go wrong and what the consequence would be. And I will make sure that I'm 100% confident in what I'm doing. And if I've gone through all of those processes and something still doesn't feel right, or I don't feel 100% confident, I just don't do it.
Yep.
There's also, I've learned with filming that if I am going to ski, a big exposed line or, a scary high consequence line, if I hike it first, if I climb the line rather than getting, dropped off by a helicopter, I always feel much, much better and I always ski better.
Yeah.
So, I prefer to hike or climb.
Totally. I think you have more time to think about it, and you don't make, like you said, you have patience, and you don't make like a split-second decision. When you're hiking a line like that, you're thinking about it the whole way up, and you're kind of looking to see what you can see, and it's amazing how different a line looks from different angles.
Mm-hmm.
To me, like that was something that I learned from inspecting in competition. Like from the bottom you'd see an air, and then sometimes you'd get to the top of it and you'd be like right? You're like, wait, there's no takeoff and I'm gonna try and go like 30 feet out over these rocks when I thought it was just 30 feet down. Like no way.
Right. Or you get up there and you're like, oh, that looks pretty flat.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Okay.
Right.
My angles aren't lined here.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always amazed me how different it can look from, even just like different times of day with different light on features. Something can look amazing, and then 30 minutes later the sun popped out from behind the clouds, and you're like, oh yeah, that does not go.
Patience.
Yep.
It's good to have patience.
Definitely. I guess like one last question and then anything else you want to add, but if you could have one significant impact in the world, what would it be?
Wow, that is a deep question. One significant impact in the world. To somehow inspire people to be kind. I think kindness not just toward other people, but kindness to themselves, kindness toward the environment. Kindness can go a long way. So if there was any way I could inspire a large number of people to be overall kind, just to have a kind demeanor, that would be a sweet impact.
Definitely.
I think that could make the world a better place.
I know it would make the world a better place, and I love that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, anything else that you want to add? I don't want to take up too much of your time right now.
No, this was an awesome conversation. Thanks for chatting with me.
Yeah.
This was really nice.
Definitely.
And hopefully it starts snowing here, and it just keeps on going, and we have another banger winter like we did last year.
Right. I think it will be. I've been seeing more bears in town in Crested Butte, and when there's bears in town, it generally means that they're looking for food, and I think that they know a lot more about the environment than we do. And when they're looking for food, they know a big winter's coming.
Yeah.
So, That's my feeling about it all. But
All right, I'm going with the Bears.
yep. Hope you guys really liked that interview with McKenna Peterson. That was such a fun conversation for me. As always, if you guys like what I'm doing here, please rate, review, subscribe, and don't hesitate to email me with any comments. Clint Caraway, if you're out there, I will take you up on podcast production. I really want to step up my production for all you guys, considering how well this is doing. So, yeah, just want to thank every one of you guys as listeners. The response has been amazing, and keep it up. You can follow me on Instagram at Scott Chrisman. Scott spelled with one T. Chrisman, Chrisman.